How's it going, y'all? I'm Retro. For the better part of the last year and a half or so, I have been diving pretty deep into the From Software games, mostly the Souls universe. After a year playing those games and multiple years of watching them before actually diving in myself, I've sort of come to trust the FromSoft formula, if you will. And today I am super excited to be bringing you my overall thoughts and feelings on the Armored Core 6 release, just I think a couple weeks ago now at this point. Going to be covering things like difficulty, weapon balancing, options, environment, down to kind of what I see next for the franchise. Before that, let me give you a little bit of background on my current From Software experience. I have played all of the games minus Demon Souls and DS2 in full. I've started both, but have not quite gotten around to finishing them. And I'm also in the middle of a couple challenge runs. Currently doing a Blood Level 4 in Bloodborne and a Rune Level 1 in Elden Ring. With all that being said, I still felt quite intimidated getting into this franchise. So long running, many different teams, organizations, and brands that have kind of dived into the AC slash mech world. There have been 16 total Armored Core games, now including this most recent one. So that's a lot of Armored Core content that I have just never experienced. But I'm super excited to dive in and kind of show you guys what I thought about this first AC experience. So let's dive in.
Augmented human C4621 has awakened.
Time to get to work, 621.
I personally chose to not look things up during this playthrough or beforehand. I've come to really enjoy the process that From Software games kind of put you through mentally. My first game that I played off stream was Elden Ring, followed with DS3 on stream. I've gotten to a point where I understand that these games are a bit challenging going into them initially, but the reward of going through that and persevering is just really unmatched for me when it comes to the gaming world. So I prefer to go in with that just completely clean slate kind of approach. Never really played any other AC games before, never watched any gameplay, but all I know is that I really appreciate how FromSoft develops games. To be clear, this is not a Souls game, but most certainly 100% without a doubt is a From Software game. After 70 hours, I can confirm I am now definitely a mech fanboy. Knowing how those games played and how many previous titles there had been, I knew I was going to try this one out. Do be warned, though, a lot of my comparisons are to Souls games because that is what I personally know and have experience with. But not everything said is a reflection of the overall community. As with the other FromSoft games, the beginning of this one was quite challenging, pretty brutal at certain points, especially as a first-time player. There was a lot to keep in mind between the 4 different weapon mounts, as well as the flight system and everything else that ultimately makes your mech what it is. Beyond the initial kind of feeling it out and getting all of that going through Chapter 1 and into Chapter 2, the rest of the game felt pretty easy, honestly. One mission in particular definitely caused me a lot of grief, but beyond that, it was, once I had found my build that was kind of across the board pretty solid, it really just felt like a cakewalk from there.
Please, you must wake up. Before your consciousness is forever scattered in the coral flow.
Augmented human C4621. Vital signs confirmed.
During my playthrough, I mentioned a number of times the similarity in mental process that I went through in this game compared to the same one that I went through in Sekiro. Both obviously very, very different games, but both I went in with a very stubborn approach of I'm going to do it the way I want to, and that's just that. I'm sure that can work for some people, but I also take a very long time to learn, timing and mechanics and all of that kind of stuff. So usually just leads to a lot of pain, which it did with the Chapter 1 finale boss. Just an absolute doozy of a boss for me. It took me about 8 hours to take him down. But really, it just was, once again, another From Software skill check. And once I was able to narrow down my weaknesses with some time and lots of death, I was able to get that one knocked out. It really wasn't until the Chapter 2 finale boss that I started making adjustments to my mech and testing different methods. Sort of got to a point where I felt like that was kind of the only option that I really had for that particular boss. Once again, I do feel like at a certain point in the game, it did become a lot easier with certain builds, but it was quite interesting. Like as a tarnished or a hunter, I feel small and I want to take on everything, and a lot of those things happen to be really big beasts and creatures and things like that, and I want to fully, dive into that experience. So being small, being, not armored and not leveled and things like that makes it that much greater at the end of it, in my opinion. But with this one in particular, I wanted to be big. I wanted to have big weapons. I wanted to just absolutely destroy everything. And I absolutely loved that part of it. Getting to just freely let loose and not feel like I was cheating myself was really, really good. I really, really enjoyed that aspect to it. This game's build options are endless. Can't tell you how many varied builds that have been sent my way, whether it's Kirby's, Samus's, Pokemon, so many. And that's just for the mech visual customization. There's also a super in-depth emblem creator as well. Allows you to upload images as well as sharing via codes and things like that too. So, it's not just something that you can create for yourself, but it's also something that you can share to others, which I think is a really, really cool aspect. The weapon options as well are quite expansive, from unstoppable tank builds to double Gatling gun builds. The options are definitely there. It's whether or not you choose to use them. I'm really glad that I did open up to the idea of adjusting my build versus just sticking with something that clearly wasn't doing the job. Usually I enjoy making it kind of that challenging piece, but with this, it just was, like I said earlier, just a different feel. There's also the AC data that allows you to improve on certain skills and things like that. So super, super cool. Lots of customization when it comes to your mech, whether it's visually or combat-wise. Definitely a lot to work with. There's also the arena, which allows you to get the chips for some of those skill customizations, which was a kind of a nice breakaway from the main mission content. Speaking of arenas, the PvP in this game also is quite promising. You have 1v1s, 3v3s, as well as rotating rounds. So you can have like 3 spectators, 9 people total. And after every round, you rotate people in, which is pretty awesome. Fortunately, no crossplay, no co-op capability, which it is a bit of a bummer, but I am really looking forward to giving some of the PvP a try. Speaking of the Armory and customizations, definitely go check out my brand new merch shop. I have Totally Retro Mech AC6 inspired t-shirts up right now. 25% off for the rest of this week, as well as 15% off for Fourth Wall members. So potentially 40% off on basically the whole store. So, all right, back to the review. So at the time of editing and scripting this video, Fromsoft has already made a patch for the overall weapon balancing, as well as with some of the boss encounters and some other items in game. Pre-patch though, maybe it was just my lack of experience and knowing what to use, but it really felt like there was only a certain number of weapons that really were viable at a certain point in the game. I didn't opt for going with a tank build, even though I did know that those were pretty solid. Just watching like Fighting Cowboy and Ouroboros, during the unveiling and all of that. But beyond Chapter 3, like, I pretty much was using the same build throughout the entirety of the game. So it is really great to see that FromSoft was quick to respond to kind of what felt like a pretty massive imbalance. But it is a bit disappointing to see that the bosses have also been adjusted. I really do feel like just one of those things would have been good to start. I did really enjoy swapping things out, though, feeling out the different reload timings, how to get the most efficient combos going, things like that were a ton of fun to feel out with each build. But yeah, I do look forward to diving back in and kind of feeling out how this new patch is. Beyond the build and weapon customization, emblem editor, and everything else that this game offers, From Software also included a photo mode, which I think is just an awesome idea. The success of Elden Ring and the amazing scenery and scale in that game, photo mode was one of the things that I really had hoped would be in that game and wasn't. So it's great that they recognize that and have given, players, content creators, and all the above the option of, saving those memories. I think that's really cool. But things from like aperture, focus, exposure, hue, motion blur can all be adjusted. You can also remove the UI and just get full screen, no HUD, nothing on the screen besides you and the scenery. And I really enjoyed that. The story itself, as well as the OST, were both absolutely brilliant as well. Going in, I really didn't have a whole lot of expectations to be drawn in by the story and characters or any of that. I absolutely was, and once again, a huge dub to FromSoft for pulling off me being into the story of mechs and the world and the environments and the politics. Like, it was all just very interesting to me. I do think that this game really does have a massive potential for the AC franchise as a whole, which is already obviously has a strong foundation, has been around for many years. But with Elden Ring and in this game and their success, this was the second most played FromSoft game on release, second to Elden Ring, and that's just one platform. That's not counting the other platforms available, and that's why FromSoft remains one of my favorite developers and will remain so as long as they keep producing games like this. It seems like they recognize what we want as a community and end up giving us exactly what it is that we need, and I think that's great because a lot of times we don't really know. We just gamers like to voice their opinion and their disagreements with games and things of that nature, and a lot of times nobody really knows what it is that we need, and it seems like FromSoft has a pretty solid formula on that. Yet another beautiful game with great character and story development, one that puts you through a mental process of overcoming and problem solving for each stage and each challenge it throws at you. It's one of the many reasons why I love these games and will continue to play them. Just so everybody knows, this is all based on PC gameplay. Everything was working really well with the Radeon RX 6600 XT. I don't know if that really means a whole lot to anybody or not, but thought I'd throw that out there. I do stream and game off the same PC as well. Frame rate and everything seemed to hold up pretty well, so that was pretty awesome. But yeah, other than that, thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed, it would mean a lot if you could hit the like button, consider subbing to the channel. Do generally post at least 2 to 3 videos a week, whether that's short form or full videos. But yeah, thank you all a ton. Appreciate it. And I'll catch you in the next one.